So today's project is Light Up Felt Funsters. These are homemade special little stuffies that are made extra special by the inclusion of electricity. And we'll show you how to make this happen for your own classroom. But first, a little intro, who we are. We are the K-12 Maker Lab at the MIT Edgerton Center. There's a lovely photo of us there on your screen. And here today is our team leader, Diane. Do you want to say a little intro about yourself?
Hi, folks. I'm Diane Francasio, and I started up on this project about 7 years ago. I'm a former engineer, high school teacher, and now makerspace leader and curriculum developer and resource creator for makerspaces in academic projects. This is a really fun project for me because I loved to sew when I was a little kid, and then did a lot of electrical work in my jobs. And this project is an awful lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy it. Jamie?
Well, behind the scenes, we have Justin on the ones and twos, who you can see in that picture. Maybe you can wave hi, Justin. There we go. He'll be managing all of our tech and in the chat with you guys. If you have any questions or comments as we go, Justin will be monitoring that. And my name's Jamie. My background is in music education and arts education. So between the three of us, we have a pretty broad range of perspectives that we bring to this work and that we're excited to share with you. So where are we? This is the Edgerton Center at MIT. That's our home as the K-12 Maker Lab. The physical space that we're in right now is actually Doc Edgerton's photography studio. And Doc is pictured there on the left-hand side with some of his photography equipment. He was a pioneer in strobe photography in the last century, and his work enabled us to see things like this milk drop that you could never, ever see with the naked eye. And you can see there on the right, that is Bobby Jones's golf swing. We changed it up. We've been using some tennis pictures. Here's another sport, so you can see how that travels all the way around. That's done through multi-flash photography, one of his many innovations. But beyond all of his technical achievements, Doc was known as a cool professor, and he was sort of a proponent of experiential learning before that was really a thing that was widespread. He would encourage students to use the space in his lab to work on their personal projects and things that interested them outside of class. Which led to a lot of interesting discoveries in its own right.
So Doc had his space was essentially a makerspace decades before the term came about. People tinkering around with some cool, real materials and figuring out alternative uses or working on passion projects.
It's true. And nowadays, that space is actually converted into a fully fledged makerspace that Diane and Justin maintain with all the bells and whistles and shop tools and hand tools and everything that you could need as a MIT maker. As the center, we're also home to the clubs and teams at MIT. This includes things like motorsports, underwater remote vehicles, First Nations launch. If it moves and you can put a motor on it, there's probably a club or team for it at the Edgerton Center. In the center there, you can see a little snippet into the student project lab that we've referenced that's across the hall. That was Doc's old electronics shop. And then we have the K-12 outreach that's part of the Edgerton Center, which includes our team as well as our colleague Amy, who hosts amazing on-campus field trips for students almost 5 days a week. I think they're here all the time. And kids get to really explore and have that MIT experience.
But we work with teachers or educators in whatever sense, helping them bring this kind of project into their classrooms with their students so everybody is exposed to some new technologies, some engaging projects, and really just a love of learning.
That brings us to today's project, these Light Up Felt Funsters. So today we're going to engage with circuits. We're going to use some unconventional materials for electronics. People don't always think of stuffies right away when you're thinking about electronic projects. As well as the useful life skill of sewing and spatial reasoning. These are fun. Some sample project prompts that we came up with for how could you integrate this into your classroom? How could you use these felt funsters to represent a character in a story? How could they represent a superpower or something that's useful to you on your journey as you're learning?
Okay, let's look at the tools and materials, and I have all of these here. You're going to need 3-volt coin cells, the CR2032s, and these lily pad coin cell battery holders. Now, these are great because you can sew them on and they have a little on-off switch right on them here. All right, we'll need yarn, scissors, felt. Now, if you're getting felt, there's a couple of different kinds out there. When you buy felt, if you buy it, it's nice and floppy. That's the good stuff to sew with. Then there's some that's really very stiff. This is not, it's great for other projects, but really not very good for sewing. And then for decorating, there's glitter felt. Ooh, okay. Now we're going to have glitter all over ourselves after touching that.
There are bigger problems you could have.
Okay. You'll need some polyfill. Now, if you don't, you can buy this. It's not very expensive. Or this way?
There you go.
Oh, okay. So the polyfill, if you can't get it, well, this right now came from a stuffed animal that my dog ripped apart. So you could do the same, or you could actually go and buy some, but it's in a lot of things. You can find it. So we'll need some needles. The needles are reasonably sharp, but they have a really big eye, and you can find these in a variety of places, even Amazon. You'll need this conductive thread, and it may come like this. It may come on a big spool, maybe on a little bobbin. And we've got the lily pad pieces, and they also make the sequins. These have LEDs on them, but you can get them from other manufacturers as well. And you'll see that each one lights up a different color. It might be a good thing to also have either hot glue or tacky glue, because we're going to need to put some stuff on and not wait very long for it to dry. And I'm going to need some alligator clips along the way just to test that my circuit is working. So, and of course, decoration materials. So maybe you'll have some glittery pieces, glittery pipe cleaners, other pieces of felt, maybe some gemstones, whatever you have around.
The first step in this and basically any project that you're ever going to do is to ideate. We always recommend coming up with several different ideas for the thing that you're going to build, because you could dive in and have something not work, or you could come up with something better as you're going. But we think 3 is really the magic number. So come up with 3 ideas of what you might possibly be able to do, how it's going to light up, and then you can move on to designing your pattern and circuit. So for this, we love graph paper. It's just convenient to see how and where you're drawing. You'll lay out the outline of the pieces that you're going to sew together. This in sewing is called a pattern. And then on the same piece of paper, you can draw out how your circuit is actually going to appear on your felt. Once that's all set, you take it to the materials with step 3. You're going to put your pattern on top of your felt, trace it, cut it out, lay out your circuit on there, and give it a test run with the alligator clips. This is very important because you don't want to do all that sewing and then at the end realize, oops, oh, I put this the wrong way, or this doesn't work. That is, of course, fine, but if you can avoid it at this step, you should. So when that's all, when the circuit is in place with the conductive thread, you put the pieces of your pattern together and sew it most of the way closed. Insert your polyfill, stuff your puff, as I say, and then finish sewing it closed. Finally, step 4 is to add the fun stuff, the decorations, the embellishments that give your piece that extra bit of personality.
Yes. Yes, we're having a lot of fun with that lately. And go ahead.
All right. I think we might have some shortcuts on the next slide that will help people as they go. In some cases, it's a little easier to use tacky glue rather than sew, or maybe you're working with really, really little kids who would do better with a glue stick or with tacky glue than with sewing. We have a couple examples of types of stitches there. The running stitch just kind of goes over, under, over, under. We like to use that for the conductive thread piece. The blanket stitch is perhaps a bit more advanced. Diane is very good at that one and is our expert. So if we need a demonstration of the blanket stitch, I will call on Diane. And then the whip stitch kind of just loops around the edge of the material and brings it together. That one's really useful for the sewing step where you put the pieces together.
Yeah, that one's my fave. LEDs are light emitting diodes. They work one direction. So to have an LED light up, you need to put the plus on the right side and the minus on the other. If you put it the other way, it does not damage the LED, but it will also not light up. You're going to have the battery holder, and that has two pluses and two minuses. They are actually connected together, so you can make a good connection to one or the other, but we sew both of them down to hold it on securely. But you could also just use one or the other in case you happen to be gluing the piece down instead of sewing it. And on the little sequin pieces, there's a plus and a minus. And you'll see that the LED is a little off center, so that helps you to see it. But you can also test it with the alligator clips, which is what we're going to do. It is marked with a plus and a minus. Sometimes it's a little hard to see, but you'll be able to test it out. When we put all the LEDs on, they will all be in parallel. All the pluses are together, all the minuses. So the current coming from your battery is going to go to 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 or 7 of these LEDs at once. At some point, you're going to have too many. But really, going to 6 or 7 is not a problem. Your battery will die a little sooner, but still got plenty of charge in it, plenty of energy. So we're going to put them all together, all the pluses together, all the minuses together, and there they go. Now, as I said, these holders have a on-off switch, which is great, but you can also add switches anywhere else in the circuit that you want. Could be another device that has a tilt. It could be some pieces of metal that come together, and we'll show you a few examples of that.
All right. Well, with all that said, I think it's time for a live demonstration.
Got it. Project today is a rocket ship. We had this one already, and there were some design ideas that went into it, but it's really a good straightforward one that we can do, get some lights, get some decoration. And the way this is made is just by having this template, and it'll get folded over in the middle to make it. So it's a really good starter project. So I'm going to start by taking my template, which is photocopied onto a piece of cardstock. It's started on graph paper here, and I'm just going to trace it. All right, so there's my rocket. This dashed line, that's going to be where I fold it over. Great. So this is the piece that I want. I'm going to be cutting this out and folding it over. But first, I'm going to put my circuit on it. So for the circuit, what I'm going to want is battery here. And I'm going to put my LEDs. This is the bottom, but then I'm going to have some fire coming out of it. So I'm going to put a couple of LEDs here. And then I'll put 2 going up the top. Now these are just, I don't know which colors they are, but I know this is where I want them. Okay, so I've got these here. And I look closely. It turns out the LED is, the side that the LED is closer to is the plus side. I'm not sure if you can see the plus there, but there is one there. So I'm going to put these here. And I'm going to make sure to choose colors. This is my minus, and I'm just going to trace this on. That's close enough. And I have 2 holes here for plus, 2 holes here. Those are my minus. So now I'll draw my LEDs. I'm going to give them a little bit of a slant so I know which side is plus and minus. And I'll draw these here. And they have little holes on them. And I'll make it a square LED in the middle. Okay. About to run this circuit. I want the plus going to the plus side. So let's mark all the pluses. So now I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to go like this from plus to plus because I won't really want to fasten it down. And then I'm going to run that to the plus, and to the plus.
We could also bring that one in there.
Ah, I missed that one. That's why I'm doing things in pencil. So I'm going to go around here. I see. I'll go here and then go there. It's a good idea to check these. Great. Now, since I know that one is going to be positive, I like to define that with red, and now it's going to be permanent. Okay. And then I'm going to need my minus on here. So I'm going to go from here to here. This time I'm going to jump over here first, and then to here, then to here, and then to here. And that's going to be my minus line. I'll leave that in pencil color. I'll just make it a little darker so I can see it here.
Something important about your diagram is that none of the wires cross each other.
Yes. Now, let's say they had to cross each other. That's fine. I'll make sure one goes over the felt and one goes under. Now, the circuit I have here is my battery, which is 3 volts, and it's going to one LED, another right next to it. These are the 2 in the back, and they are in parallel. And then I'm going to add these 2 at the front. When you draw an LED, you draw a circle and then the diode in it pointing in the direction of the current. So there's my circuit. But there's a switch. So that little switch is right here in my battery holder. So I'll draw that like a switch. And there's my circuit.
Beautiful.
Okay, so next thing we're going to do is actually, I don't need to cut this one out. I need to trace it on the felt. So I would now take my template here and trace it out. I think I was going to do it with a black marker, but I'm not sure where I left it. So I'm going to do it with this one, but it's still pretty easy. So to cut that short, can you see the line on there? I'm going to then trace the whole thing, and I have one ready made, so I can just cut it out. Cutting felt, super easy. It's just goes through with any regular, reasonably sharp scissors. Okay, so now I've got the piece. It's all cut out, and I want to go back and put that circuit on it. So let me start laying it out. I'm going to put them on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one has a battery in it. Let me show you how to get the batteries in these, because they are no fun to put in. They're really hard to push in. The plus side is up, so I sort of have to push that all the way in. There we go. Now I'm turning this switch to on. Now for me to check these out, I can put my alligator clips on here. I'm going to use the black for minus and the red for plus. And it just got stuck on here. Oh, sorry, it's stuck in the felt. All right, there's my plus. Okay. So that's where everybody's going to go. And I can just check and see, this one lights up. This doesn't. I think I have it backwards. Okay.
There we go.
Now, even if it's upside down, I can still kind of see it light up. And that one says green, but it didn't look very good. Now it looks green. Okay. And this one, I have to turn around. Okay. So choose your colors. You're really going to have to like save them and know which colors, because they don't look that different when they're here. Like that one looks yellow, but it turns out it's white. Okay. Once you've laid this all out and it looks like your pattern and you're sure everything's going to work, then take your hot glue or tacky glue. If you're going to put the tacky glue down, give it a minute or 2 minutes, but use very little. So if I'm going to put my tacky glue on this one here, a very small amount, and when I put this here, it's going to stick after, like I said, 2 minutes. My alternative is, if you're really good with hot glue, as little as you can, and stick it down like that. And
And this step is really helpful. It is optional to glue these down, but it's helpful because as you're sewing, you're holding this piece of fabric and your LEDs are going to go all over the place. So unless you want to keep repositioning them as you're doing your conductive thread, this is a great shortcut.
And I think on every prototype that we made, we had something backwards at one point. So like, take this one out.
That's another great reason to glue them down.
Yes. So I have one that I put together with tacky glue about an hour ago. And I can take my pencil or pen and also draw or give myself some dotted lines. Like I see the pluses here and I see where they want to go, or at least maybe just give a red dot as to where all my pluses are. And I want to show you some sewing here. So let's see. I'm going to take a big piece of this thread and start sewing. Yeah, this one is now the electrical thread, conductive thread is, it feels weird. So if you're used to sewing, just get used to like weird thread. Okay, I am cutting very badly. Let me cut it the right way and get a good end on it. All right, now I'm going to thread my needle. You could use a needle threader, but I'll tell you one way that's pretty easy, and let me know if it's coming through on the camera, is to kind of loop it like this and just put that loop right through. And I didn't see it. Let's see one more time. Put it through my loop like this. And that's really what a needle threader would do. Now I like to sew with it doubled. So I'm going to bring the two ends together. I'm going to do the old-fashioned trick of just roll it on your finger once and then give it a little roll like this. I just rolled it a couple of times and pull it back and you get a knot at the end. Practice this one. This is like because I was sewing when I was 5 years old. So I'm going to come into my plus, and when you're sewing, you've got to be so tight on this to make a good connection. So since it's doubled, I really only have to do it twice. Let's see. So I might just go to the bottom and then come back up through it. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to the other plus. So coming out here. And once again, I'm going to do 2 loops. So my kind of easy to do this. 1, 2, really pulling it tight. Now I'm going to do a running stitch over to the top plus. Let's go to that one.
And that running stitch, you're just going under, over, under, over.
And over, yep. And I'm just going to come right back out here. And I'm going to do 2 here, 1. And I'll go down and then up again. And I'm going to do another running stitch. Actually, I'm just going to go right over to this one.
That's a sprint.
I'm sprinting. Thank you. Oh, but I can't find it. So, sprints over. I'm going to have to see it. I still want to come up from the bottom. Oh, I think I'm hitting into the glue. That's why. All right. Another one, 2 times. 1, 2. And I don't think I personally have enough thread here to get to this and do it, to continue to my other pluses. So I'll start another piece. But if you want to end this, you can kind of go like right next to it and go twice over in the cloth. 2 or 3 times. You don't tie a knot. You just sort of go around in your cloth like that. You might see a spot. Maybe you can do it all on the other side. And then we're going to cut that off and start another piece going up to here. So I want to get my next 2.
And so as long as the conductive thread is well attached to the thread before it, it will carry the current through, even if it's 2 separate pieces.
Yes.
Awesome.
And if I really needed to, I could have stopped that piece and I could have tied it onto the next one, which is, it's fussy. This was kind of short, but I could have done that.
Why do you not make a knot?
Well, because when you're sewing, there's no real way to make another knot. What's considered a knot in sewing is to go 3 times around in your fabric and then just cut it. That constitutes a knot. If you know of another way to do that, like trying to tie a knot and have it go close to that, but I'd rather just go a little bit of a distance away and then sew it down tight. Now, let's say you're really concerned. Put a little bit of glue on this. Take your tacky glue on your piece right there, and then it's not going to unravel. You could do that with the hot glue as well, but so what's fun about tacky glue or Elmer's glue is that it seeps into everything. So if I do that, it's not going to untie. Of course, if you want to undo it, it's not going to come out either. Okay, so we're going to go to one that was completed in advance. So you can see my plus and my minus going through here. And then this is going to be folded over and turned into the piece. So how did that look? So I went from here to here, and now I'm on this piece, pretty similar, and I've got the rest of my yarn. So I'm just gonna finish, no, right at this point now, I'm ready to stuff it. So I'm gonna take some of that polyfill here and stuff it right in. If you're doing something with like a head, use a pencil, use whatever to get it as you like it. And pretty fun stuff. Ah, it's all fitting in. I'm sure you could use cotton balls if you like, whatever you have on hand to stuff it. And now I'm gonna finish it up with my whip stitch. Now, this is such an easy stitch, but here's where you're going to realize that if you don't have needles with a point at the end, like if you're just using the kind of needle that you use with a mesh, it's not going to go through the felt. So you really have to have a point. And sometimes maybe you might use a thimble or put something over people's fingers to push it through. Or maybe you're doing this with glue or staples. And we're just going to sew it up to the end. When I get to this end, I'm not going to tie a knot. I'm going to go over it 3 times. Sorry, I think I'm out of the camera. And that's about it. Oh, we didn't test the circuit, Jamie. What if it doesn't work? Then I've gotten all this stuff and I can't look inside it. Probably should have tested it when it was at this point. Let's check it.
Success.
Okay. But if I wanted to check it when I was here, take a battery, my supply, and these are going on. Now this piece happens not to have a on-off switch. It's a different version of it. But so we did have this one working. Test that out. Now I'm testing here. Really doesn't affect me to be sewing while it's going on. It's a tiny 3-volt battery. All right, closing it up. And our last step is going to be to decorate it. Okay. Okay, finishing off, and I will go around. And there's a little ending trick I do want to show you here. After I've finished it off with a couple of stitches, and you don't want to see the end of it, you want to bury it inside, you sort of go in, travel somewhere else, come out somewhere else, like this. And don't worry, you're not going to see it. So I'm going to pull it a little bit tight, cut it, and then when it releases, it's buried back in there.
Magic.
Sewing is magic. So is electricity. These are pretty cool. Okay. So this one's pretty simple. When I want to go and decorate it, I thought, okay, let's go with the glitter felt. And I'm going to do some really simple decorations for the back. I'm actually putting some glue here in a couple of places, and I'm going to put some fire, purple fire coming out. I know I didn't warn you about this one, Jamie.
That is so snazzy, though. I'm glad this is happening live.
So I've got all my fire at the back. And I actually wanted to put some stripes on it. So maybe
With the Brancosio Space Program.
Good thing I'm here and not at NASA. Let's see. One thing that you might find with hot glue is it gets a bit stringy. And it may get on your hands. Of course, you just rub your hands together if you're not loving that. But I'm going to get one more piece on here, and then I'm done. So, ta-da!
Well, if that isn't just fabulous.
To the moon!
All right, so the first step-by-step walkthrough that we wanted to show you is actually of this rocket ship. We thought about the prompt, a journey through your imagination. How would you get there? So when I was thinking about this, I came up with a couple different ideas that you can sort of see in the GIFs. I thought about a hot air balloon that maybe had LEDs for the fire. But then I decided I didn't actually want to do all that patterning and sewing to do both the basket and the top the way that I was envisioning and the amount of time that I had to make the sample. So nixed that idea. I also thought of a train because, you know, who doesn't love trains? But the sketch that I came up with, I wanted to make sort of a box train car situation, which again was just beyond the constraints of the amount of time that I had. So my third idea was the winning ticket. It was the rocket ship, which I realized I could pattern out in sort of one piece and get together and decorated within the window that was available to me. So from ideation, I moved on to design, and you can see now this familiar pattern that Diane just worked with. We designed it on the graph paper, designed our circuit, cut it out of the felt, drew our circuit onto the felt, and then moved on to fabrication. Oh, yes, and of course, tested our circuit before doing any of the sewing. And there we go. We stitched through each thing, each component 3 times to make that good connection with the conductive thread. And finally, stuffed and puffed, sewed most of it together, put that polyfill in there to stuff the rocket. And then on the last slide there, ta-da, there we go. We made it fly. So another project that we made was at the end of the summer of 2023, which some of you might remember was a really big summer in women's media. We saw the Barbie movie together. We had a great time. We wore a ton of pink. So with all these powerful women dominating the headlines and dominating the economy, I really wanted to pay homage to that. So of course, first I thought of Taylor Swift and the Eras Tour. I thought maybe a light up guitar might be a good way to symbolize that. I thought about Beyonce's Renaissance World Tour and the shiny silver horse. That's sort of emblematic of that whole artistic movement. And then for Barbie, I thought about the shoe, which was in the first promo that Greta Gerwig put out, where Margot Robbie steps out of the shoe and keeps her pointed foot, which was just got us all excited about the Barbie movie. So out of those 3, I felt like the guitar, you know, maybe people won't automatically know that that's the Eras Tour. Maybe it's just a guitar. The horse, I thought maybe people will think I'm really into horses, which I am, but that wasn't the point of this project. And so that's how I settled on the shoe design. So I went ahead and I patterned out a little shoe with some graph paper, and I traced it onto my felt. You can see iteration in action in this step here, because initially I had wanted that little strappy piece to be a button snap, but I realized I didn't leave myself enough room to really make that happen on the material. And I didn't want to start from scratch. So I just nixed that and decided that my battery was going to go on the back side of the shoe. So you can see that I tested that out with alligator clips to make sure it would all work, and then moved on to create. So the photo here shows, you can sort of see the little red dots that I used for the plus side on the top, and the gray dots on the bottom I used to mark out my negative pathway. And the circuit clearly works. So there we go. We added a little bit of embellishment with the shiny chenille stick and the pom-pom to make it sort of look more like what Greta Gerwig had in mind. And this was overall just a really fun one to make. Oh, so this one was the companion to show an emotion, and these turned out so cute. I think those are your sketches, Diane, of different buddies there.
So a lot of this is thinking, what can I sew? And can I do this fairly easily? And do I have to sew everything? So there was a bunch of stuff, and there's always I like the duck and the fish, and then maybe putting in arms. Do I really need to sew them all in and stuff everything? That's a lot of sewing. So my goal was like, how little can I sew? So let's see. Do we have pictures of these?
Mm-hmm. Oh, look at your solution for the arms. You didn't have to sew whole new arms on there. You included it in the pattern.
This was one that we had found from like an online template. Yeah. And what we did with this one, can you see the heart turning on? This has a switch inside, just a piece of tinfoil that is, when I hold its hand, it lights up.
Warms its heart.
Yeah, I think we have some others with that. This one I love because of its ridiculous simplicity, which is just the on and off switch, a running stitch. I think a total of about 15 stitches maybe in this whole piece. So yeah, this was just a nice way to keep going on it. Oh yeah, that's the one with the piece of tinfoil that is going against a snap that is in there, but I can't see either one, but that is definitely inside of here while it is lighting up.
Mm-hmm. So I think on the next slide, we have some testing with the alligator clips. You can see how that tinfoil switch is sort of coming together there. And then we sewed it all together and added our special embellishments, like a patch of sunshine and his little heart.
What is this scary creature?
Oh my gosh, it looks sort of like Godzilla. I think we might have a Godzilla enthusiast working the ones and twos for us today.
He's so cute.
But what's cool about him is the use of a tilt switch. When Godzilla goes to sleep, he stops breathing fire. But as soon as he wakes up, there he goes. And it's not fire. What is this? An energy field?
It's a nuclear ray.
Nuclear ray.
Nuclear rays, yeah. So everyone needs time off from that. So it's understandable when he lays down, there it goes.
This is a little tilt switch. It's a little canister that has a ball in it. So that when it is vertical, the ball connects the outside and the outside to this other prong. They're pretty cool. And so now when it's laying down, the ball has rolled to the other side. It can go upside down completely. And as soon as that ball rolls back, there it is. I think we have, this one here is a great one with a snap. If I can get it to turn on, there we go. So it's lit up, and the snap is what's creating the circuit. Now, snaps are no fun to sew. Way too many pieces, too hard to pull apart. So we came up with a different way of achieving that. And it was with a magnet and a piece of metal. So in each one of these, there's a magnet, little tiny neodymium magnet in here, and a hex nut in the other, which is just a mechanical nut of a certain size. And I'm not sure if I have them. I do have them. Let me show these off. Okay, so here's what we're going to show first. Oh, everything is stuck together as magnets will do. So here is the nut, and here's my magnet. And as soon as they get together, they're going to jump. So they're going to hold together like this with the felt between them. So on each one of these, I've got the magnet in the left hand, and in the right hand, it has the hex nut. So we have the magnet here and the hex nut there. So now when they go together, I've got, this has like a horizontal line, this has a vertical line, and it lights up. But this guy is kind of keeping all his energy to himself. He's not really sharing it with the world. But we set this up.
We solved that problem.
We solved that problem. And we've got a whole bunch of friends. And for each one, if you make them the exact same way, I can have the magnet on here connect to the nut on here, and same for the next one. And if it was on, no, it should be on. And now they're lighting up.
Go.
They're both lit up.
It's the
How
joy
many
of
do-
community.
It is. Let's add some more community to this,
Let's
Jamie.
go. All right.
Let's see if they're all gonna go together, and not happening yet. See if they all are on, or if their hands are touching correctly. Oh, this one is, oh, I did it backwards. My bad. Let's see. Do we have them yet? I probably did them wrong.
Oh, yay, there we go.
Oh, somebody's coming. One of their, there it is. These guys just need to hold hands. So we now have, oh, quite the collection. Looks like there's another one here. So this one I was just sewing to embroider. I was using the yarn to just embroider. This is starting to look like a gingerbread man. We wanted these all decorated with each one's personality. But once again, they'll all work on their own, or they can join with a friend and share. So hopefully that one will turn back on. There we go.
Those are so adorable.
I hope so. I think they're kind of fun.
Well, and it's interesting to consider too how you might create something in your class or in your setting that is collaborative. You know, maybe everybody's pieces work on their own, but they work that much better, that much more beautifully as a group. What we love about this, it's a really engaging introduction to basic circuitry, and it uses unexpected media that's really fun to work with.
You can make these circuits easy or hard. You can, for one, you're doing parallel circuits, which is kind of cool, but you can add a series component by adding switches. It could be that you've got to like put it on the right place, or like touch your heart. Oops, sorry about that. Touch something so that it makes the connection, like a few of these that we have. They need to show something here, and it's still got the sewing part for it. So you can make your circuits as complex or as simple as you want.
And this is a high tech or a higher tech sort of way to get kids involved with sewing. Maybe you have some kids who, you know, are a little reluctant to learn these skills without the cool techie aspect involved, and this might just reach those kids a little differently. And finally, it creates a memorable and very adorable, sometimes kind of scary final product.
Well, this really shows differentiation, because I don't think most students are going to get to the level of adding on arms and legs and all, and spine pieces. But if they want to, they can. It's like, yeah, you want to keep adding to it? Go right ahead. You want to add some, how would you put, you know, hair on your device, on your toy, whatever you want to do. So it can be as simple as this, or more complex with the exact same kind of thing of whatever is lighting up. So single circuit, parallel, whatever you like. So this is the third webinar in a series of three over the past 4 weeks. So we've got those. Those are on our website. And we've edited the broadcast and have the parts and parts list for each one there, plus some pictures of samples. This June, we are doing our yearly in-person, hands-on maker skills workshops, which are really busy days. We keep people moving. Why don't you tell what we have for them?
Well, we focus each one of the days on an individual set of skills. So you're welcome to register for 1 day, 3 days, all 4 days, whatever interests you and works with your schedule. Monday, June 24th, we're going to be doing make by hand stuff, like this, where you're fabricating with these digits that you have here. On Tuesday, it'll be digital fab with 3D printers, lasers, vinyl cutters. That day is always a lot of fun. Wednesday, we're going to have electronics, which, Diane always goes off on electronics day. She has a lot to say about those, and it's so enlightening. It's really awesome to listen to Diane speak on that. And finally, physical computing is where you take things in the computer and make things happen in the real world, which is also super engaging.
Yeah, we'll be using microbits and code blocks, and I think we'll be using Tinkercad. Tinkercad is code block, microbit is make code, but we'll be using a few things there where what you code happens on a screen or happens in your hand. So join us for those, one or many. They are $275 for the whole day, all materials included. Come and join us for that. We have one more program coming up in the fall, Master Making in the Classroom. Now, this program is a lot of fun. It's really for people who are pretty good with the maker skills, but now they need to share that with other teachers. Or maybe they lead the makerspace and the teachers come to them and they need to help them design and lead maker projects in academic classes. This class is for you. We lead that over 3 months. So we start at the end of September, we go into October, November. I think we end in the very beginning of December, somewhere around there, because you're doing stuff in between the meetings. You are working at your school, coming back. So it's a coaching, mentoring type program, along with a lot of skills using our design process, which is a maker methodology. So it's really using a design process with a focus on maker. So you have a lot of hands-on stuff going on. So if you're interested in that, give us a call or sign up.
Great. So thank you so much for joining us for this project that we love so much. It's been a lot of fun to share with you. And we'd love to hear any questions or comments or ideas that might have come up for you during the presentation, how you might use this in the future.